Have you ever deeply thought about the relationship between Jesus and the angels? Angels are not just mysterious beings, they are the important messengers who deliver God's will to the world. Their role is closely intertwined with Jesus as they help fulfill God's redemptive plan. The appearances of angels descending from heaven were not just symbolic, but actual events in which God's will was revealed through divine acts. From the birth of Jesus to his ministry, death, and resurrection, angels were closely involved with him, and without them, God's plan for redemption could not have been fully realized. Angels proclaimed the birth of Jesus, assisted in his ministry, and even testified to his death and resurrection, delivering the message of salvation to the world. Jesus and the angels worked together to fulfill God's great plan, and with each encounter, divine power was manifested. Today, we reflect on the mysterious relationship between Jesus and the angels, exploring the deeper meanings conveyed through their roles. Through this story, we will reconsider the sacred messages Jesus and the angels sought to impart and how we can apply these lessons to our lives. The heavenly host surrounds Jesus, signaling the fulfillment of God's will on earth. This moment is not just the birth of Jesus, but the glorious manifestation of God's redemptive plan, where heaven and earth unite. In the life of Jesus, angels were not mere bystanders. They were vital to the fulfillment of God's redemptive plan. From his childhood to his death and resurrection, angels were with him. The angel who announced Jesus' birth, along with the heavenly host, proclaimed the sacredness of his arrival. When Jesus was tempted in the wilderness, angels ministered to him, delivering God's messages. Their presence was an ongoing testimony of God's divine will. Furthermore, when Jesus faced his crucifixion, the angels stood by, witnessing his suffering. Their presence served as a powerful testimony that his death was the means by which the world's sins would be cleansed. And after his resurrection, angels proclaimed Jesus' victory, spreading the good news of salvation. In this moment, the angel reveals God's glory to the world, declaring the purpose of Jesus' birth, a divine act of salvation. When Jesus faced his death on the cross, the suffering and anguish he endured were accompanied by a display of divine power. In that moment, the veil of the temple was torn, the earth shook, and the sky grew dark. These events were not merely to demonstrate his death, but to show that God's salvation plan was fulfilled through Jesus' sacrifice. Then, when Jesus rose from the dead, it was not just a restoration of his life, but a confirmation that his death had taken away the sins of the world. The resurrection was not just about his return to life, but the fulfillment of the redemptive work he had begun. The angels who proclaimed his resurrection were the bearers of the good news, announcing that Jesus had triumphed over death and sin. At this moment, heaven and earth unite, and through Jesus' resurrection, God opened the path to salvation. Even after Jesus' resurrection, the angels continued to deliver crucial messages. When Mary Magdalene encountered the risen Jesus, the angel who appeared to her declared that Jesus had risen, confirming that he was the Savior of the world. This message was not just about his resurrection, but it was a proclamation that God's redemptive love was complete. Also, when Jesus ascended into heaven, the angels foretold his return, offering a final message of hope and assurance to humanity. The angels' message was not just to announce his resurrection, but also to remind us of the promise of Jesus' return and the final fulfillment of God's plan. In this moment, the angels proclaim the promise of Jesus' return, offering the world the final message of salvation. The relationship between Jesus and the angels is not just mysterious, but deeply significant. Together, they work to fulfill God's redemptive plan, bridging heaven and earth with their divine purpose. Every moment of Jesus' life, from his birth to his death and resurrection, was intertwined with the work of angels who carried God's will to the world. Through their actions, Jesus and the angels remind us of the sacred nature of God's plan for salvation. In the midst of our trials, we too can be reminded that God is with us, and the angels continue to fulfill God's purpose in guiding us. Through the sacred journey of Jesus and the angels, we are called to understand God's redemption and to live out his will in our lives. Heaven and earth unite in this sacred relationship, and we are called to carry forth that divine message in our lives.